Hello, welcome to the Ghosts of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm McKelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 38 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George Martin. Today we're discussing chapter 37 of A Game of Thrones. That's Bran 5.
As always, we'll chat about the chapter and try not to spoil any future plot points for you. And hopefully, we'll provide you with some entertainment along the way.
We will summarise what's happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the TV show, indulge in a little pedantry, and cover some reader feedback. Yes. Be sure to check out the show notes. They'll provide you some additional information about the characters and other things of note in this chapter. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. How about you over there?
Good, glad. Not too bad. I've been a bit sedentary because of the whole... I sometimes think as we're talking like this that we have to sort of think of posterity.
Right.
You know, in centuries to come, people will hear this and they won't have the temporal context. So I need to explain.
Right.
We are still under COVID-19 coronavirus lockdown, and so
That's right.
recording remotely. And I've been a bit sedentary because of that.
Yeah.
Not getting enough exercise. So I made a deal today with the fam to every hour at 55 minutes past the hour, we get together, the three of us, and we do 5 minutes of exercise.
Okay. That's a good
So
idea.
Today, yeah, I've done 50 push-ups and 50 sit-ups.
Nice. All right.
I am aching all over.
Since quarantine started?
Yes, because that does
day.
work out at like one a day. But in my defense, until today, I was at 0.
Okay.
So
All right.
it's been a distinct uptick
Yes.
in the amount of exercise I've done.
Yeah.
No, I have been playing a bit of tennis, so I've not been completely sedentary.
There
But
you
still.
go. Yeah, Ethan and I had been working out together like 3 or 4 days a week, but our schedules are so opposite because he sleeps till past midday most days, and I like to get up and work out in the morning. So ultimately, it was like 2 weeks ago, we were like, okay, I'll do my thing on my time, you do your thing on your time. So.
Yeah, I don't know how you parent a college kid during this, because I mean, I've got a high schooler, and so I can at least say you've got to get up and do your high school work, which is it's a sliver of what he would be doing, but at
Right.
least it's something.
Yeah.
But if it's a college kid, I mean, first of all, I'm talking softly now because he might hear this, but the times when he's asleep are the happier times in the house. You know? So the last thing I want to do is encourage more of the we're awake at the same time thing. But he has got to get up and do his work.
Yeah. Our kids they're becoming more and more Rickon-like every day. They're basically just raising themselves. Who knows what times they go to bed? Stacey and I go to bed like about 11 every night. I'm pretty sure they're up for at least another 5-6 hours before they go to bed, based on their wake-up times.
Yeah, I wondered how long it would take us to shoehorn a Rickon reference into the show. We didn't even get to the book.
Right.
Yeah, when I listened back to that whole conversation about Rickon fostering Robert Arryn, I thought we were quite funny.
I did too. I usually do think we're quite funny. I don't know if anyone else agrees, but I think we make me laugh.
Well, if you look at our numbers, then nobody does. It's just us. No, we're very grateful for our fans. Thank you for listening. We appreciate you.
Yes, we've had 3 or so. Really, things have really upticked. I'm wondering if maybe people were busy doing other stuff during the initial few weeks of the COVID-19 quarantine.
And now they're
bored
out of their gourds.
Yeah. Let's listen to these guys again. We've got nothing else to do.
It's going to be the making of, as I tell you. All right, let's get down to business. Oh, I've got one other thing before we start, actually. My dog. So I went out. I have like a screened-in porch, which for people who don't live in the south of the United States might not mean much. But if you go outside, about 8 months of the year, you'll get eaten by mosquitoes because they live out there and they eat human.
Yep.
A screened-in porch is like a porch with screens instead of windows, and those screens keep the mosquitoes out. It's absolutely glorious to be out there. I just love it. It's my favorite room in the house. Yeah. Oh yeah, perfect. We have just off the screen porch, we have a little deck which is not screened in, So that's where the mosquitoes live. We went out yesterday morning and the deck was covered in blood.
Oh.
I mean, just covered. Me and Lucas were looking at it and we were like, it looks like someone's been murdered, Mum.
Oh, man.
And our little dog had killed some multiple things.
Oh, wow.
And just
okay.
thrashed their bodies around up there and just... It looked like a crime scene. It was awful.
Twiggy.
And you
who knew?
Yeah, little... I know! That little innocent face. A monster. And now I can't escape the glint in her eye now.
You know what
she keeps wanting to go back out there. I'm like, no, come on, you stay in here.
Oh,
and I mean, I had to put one of the things out of its... I'm not even going to talk about what they are. It's too horrible. But I had to end its life because it was suffering. And I'm not good at that kind of thing.
No, me either.
I mean, I'm really not good at it. I mean, like, I can't eat meat, which is like, 5 layers removed from the dying of the animal. Oh, God. So I'm traumatized by this.
Poor things.
So let's read a gory book, shall we? All right, let's get on with it.
Let's do it.
All right, quick recap of what Bran was up to last time we saw him. Last time we saw Bran, it has been quite a while.
Yeah.
He was receiving plans for a specialised saddle to allow him to ride again from Tyrion Lannister. He was hearing news of his Uncle Benjen's worrying absence north of the Wall, and very sweetly sleeping with his big brother Robb, because both of them were feeling lonely from the absence of their parents. Yeah. And just the two of them. No Rickon.
Where was he?
Forgotten again. So they were missing their parents, and also they were beginning to think that winter really might be coming. Rickon, I guess it was with the wolves. Anyway, why don't we give them the summary?
So Bran is out for his first ride on his horse Dancer. Dancer's saddle is fashioned from the designs Tyrion gave Bran when he passed through Winterfell on his way from the Wall. Robb is riding with him along with Maester Luwin, Theon Greyjoy, and some other Winterfell men. And of course, the direwolves Summer and Greywind are present and accounted for. Dancer was selected for her exceptional smarts, and Bran has ridden her inside the castle multiple times as the two have learned how to use the saddle together.
The group rides through the near-deserted village outside of the castle. The village fills up in the winter. Bran, now feeling comfortable in the saddle, wants to ride faster, so he and Robb race ahead of the group, the wolves running along with them. The pair eventually come to a halt miles outside of town and out of sight of the rest of the group.
Robb decides to fill Bran in on the happenings with their father in King's Landing. Bran is sad to hear of Jory Cassell's death and scared about his father's injury and uncertain recovery. We also learn that the boys know about Cat and Tyrion in the Vale. Bran liked Tyrion, but the name Lannister gives him an icy feeling for reasons he can't quite put his finger on. Bran, having lost all the joy of the ride, wants to go back home, but Robb wants to find the wolves first. The pair lead the party off the King's Road into the Wolf's Wood to look for the wolves, soon outpacing the rest until the boys are out of earshot of the party. When they hear the wolves howl, Robb rides off to find them, leaving Bran alone.
Bran hears what he thinks is the rest of the party arriving, but turns to find a group of unknown men and women. The group is ragged and clearly not from a local farm. They quickly surmise that Bran is a lordling and order him to give them his fancy silver pin and his horse. Bran notices that 2 of the men wear the black of the Night's Watch. Clearly they've deserted their duties, and he recalls what happens to the last Night's Watch deserter he met.
Yep.
A woman in the group wants to take him hostage and sell Bran to Mance Raider. Robb appears, and so do the wolves. A bloody fight breaks out, and when it's over, all but the woman wildling are dead. Robb decides to bring her back to Winterfell for questioning.
So we're back in Winterfell.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It has been a while. I looked it up. It's been 13 chapters. The last Bran episode we had was on March 9th. So it has been a long time.
Until today, he wasn't going anywhere, really.
Well,
but now...
Yeah.
Now he and Dancer. World's at his feet.
That's right. So, yeah, the horse riding goes well, which is good.
Yeah.
Bran's been practicing inside Winterfell, but this is his first gallop. And he's able to keep up with Robb, so, that's good.
They said that Dancer was particularly smart and basically never wore an ordinary saddle, so this is all she knows in terms of being ridden.
That was on Tyrion's advice when he gave Bran the design for the saddle, he mentioned that the horse should be young, smart, and having never been broken in before. So
Right. So they ride through the near empty village. I didn't realize, I didn't remember this winter village on the outside of Winterfell, but I guess it makes sense. I mean, Winterfell has these hot springs warming its walls. A village huddled up against those walls makes a lot of sense, because keep you warm in winter.
So Bran mentions that currently this little village outside of Winterfell is near empty, but as winter approaches, it will fill up. And he says that, he gets this information from old Nan because he himself has never seen a winter. He said as the winter comes, the farmers will abandon their crops and their distant holdfasts, and I think as she puts it, the winter town comes alive.
Right. So, not to put you on the spot with anything, but Bran is 7 years old?
He's 8. He mentions in this chapter, remember, he says, I'm 8. I'm near as old as you.
That's right. But how long has the summer been going? Is that?
I think it's nearing 10 years.
Nearing 10 years. So he really is a child of summer.
Yeah. So
Bran thinks about how Robb seems to admire and enjoy Theon's company, which is interesting because Theon's an odd character to us because we're not quite sure how to peg him at the moment.
Yes.
I mean, he is hostage / ward of Winterfell. He enjoys some privilege for being that.
Right.
He seems to have been basically accepted. I mean, certainly we've commented before that Kat seems to prefer Theon to Jon.
Yeah, she divulged. Well, at the time, it seemed like a big deal when she divulged the secret about Cersei killing Jon Arryn in front of Theon. Now we know that's just what she does.
Yes. And actually, that's going to come up again a little bit in this chapter. Is well, actually, in the TV show, there'll be an interesting comparison with the TV show there about what Theon hears.
Oh,
but Bran mentions that Jon never warmed to Theon, and he himself has some sort of hesitations about Theon.
Yeah, that's it's very interesting dynamic because Robb, he seems like a pretty trusting guy, and that could worry us a little bit since he is currently the Lord of Winterfell. If he trusts a little too much, that could get him into some trouble, I guess.
But Theon's clearly got some personality, and he's clearly not cowed to be a hostage. He's clearly comfortable being there.
Yeah,
feels that he's part of the family, or near as makes no difference, part of the family.
Right. It kind of along those lines. I was wondering if maybe what Robb admires so much about Theon is that he's, in a lot of ways, he's very different from Robb. He's so carefree, and he seems to in this chapter seems to really be up for some fun, and those are things that at the moment, especially, Robb can't be. He's got to be Lord of Winterfell. He's got the responsibility of being heir to Ned Stark, so maybe he kind of embraces, like, Theon can do these crazy things and report back, and he can kind of live vicariously a little bit through him.
Yeah, but of course, I mean, thinking big picture, I mean, Theon is the heir to the Iron Islands. I mean, he too is heir to a major house,
right?
So that will come to him too.
Yes,
but I guess when you're not there, I mean, maybe if he was in the Iron Islands, he would be acting more like a lord.
Right. Yes.
Here he can be, pampered teenager.
Yeah. He seems to...
Although, I mean, it's Winterfell. Pampering means you have a fur coat to wear,
Right. Yeah. But, I also found it... Robb.
Don't say it.
I almost said it.
Penny in the jar.
It struck me that Bran has never warmed to Theon because Ned was very excited about, not excited, but Ned was very looking forward to bringing Bran with him to King's Landing because he thought Bran is the easygoing, the peacemaker, the get along with anyone kind of guy that could bring these families together. And
yet
he
specifically said that.
Yeah. But yet he's never warmed to Theon, and it doesn't really feel like Theon's ever really warmed to him. I don't ever get, at least we've only been a few chapters, but it doesn't feel like he's he doesn't seem to have the big brother instincts that Jon and Robb have for Bran, and he's not his little brother, so I guess there's that. But
yeah, I'm not sure that Bran could have done much really with Joffrey Baratheon, because he's a lot worse than Theon Greyjoy. I mean,
yeah,
Theon's a little brash, a little arrogant. Could do with kind of calming it down a little bit. He's no Joffrey Baratheon,
right?
If Bran can't make peace with this one, there's no hope for the other one.
Yeah, Ned was biting off a little more than he could chew with that idea there.
So the boys are alone after their gallop. They're miles outside of town. Bran's elated, but he notices that something is bothering Robb.
Yeah.
So Robb is not sure what he should tell Bran. I mean, Bran is only 8, as I correctly predicted earlier. But Bran says, well, look, I'm heir after you. If you fall off your horse and break your neck right now, I need to know the things that you know.
Yeah. He makes a good point.
He didn't say those bits.
Right. But, that is a good point. And that is, I could see Robb's concern. You want to tell him things because he is next in line at the moment. But at the same time, he's just a little boy. And Robb's not much older, so he doesn't have a lot of experience in how much information he should divulge.
Yeah. But, so, I mean, basically Robb is convinced and spills the beans. We sort of get this sort of long exposition about what's going on in the world.
Yeah. And you can tell, he mentions that Robb sounds sad and scared when he starts to tell Bran these things. And it just made me think about what an awful spot his parents had put him in. I mean, he's a boy playing Lord, and it just seems like more and more things keep getting piled on his plate.
Well, yeah. I mean, the worst part of it, he could run Winterfell. I mean, there's not much to do.
Right. Yeah.
Just don't let the walls collapse.
Right.
Make sure that people can come into the winter village when winter arrives. That kind of thing. But the problem is now he's faced with the challenges of what should the Stark's response be to the things that are going on.
Yeah.
And that's a consequential decision which is way above the pay grade of a 14-year-old.
Yeah, exactly.
And you wouldn't want to... And I mean, honestly, it actually doesn't really matter about his age. It's obviously more difficult for a 14-year-old. But if you were 30 and you were the heir...
Yeah.
You wouldn't know what to do. You wouldn't know what to do because you're not in charge yet.
Right.
Once you're in charge, you can make the decision and stand by it.
Yeah.
While you're not in charge but being forced into the decision, you're always going to be second-guessing yourself. Right. Is this what they want me to do?
Right. Is this what Dad wants me to do? Is this what Mom wants me to do? I don't know. Yeah.
I'm in the middle of watching Succession on HBO, which is quite an interesting show. I'm not all the way through it yet, but I slightly recommend it.
Okay.
It's intriguing.
That's the one about the wealthy family?
Yes, exactly.
We watched the pilot, but that's all the further we'd made it.
Right. There's a funny discussion after the fact in one of the episodes. One of the episodes, I think Kieran Culkin,
Macaulay's younger brother. Yeah.
He is one of the children of the rich guy.
Right.
And the rich guy is played by Brian Cox, who's a British actor who's very good. And the scene that Kieran Culkin was describing was one where Brian Cox turns on him and sort of fixes him with a steely glare and makes him quiver and quake, kind of thing. And Kieran Culkin says, that was the easiest bit of acting I've ever had to do. That was absolutely terrifying. Sorry, I digress.
Hey, we need these updates on shows. Right now, people need to know what to watch.
Yeah.
So we also get the first reference of the phrase "dark wings, dark words" here, which is a phrase that comes up from time to time. It means that when you get a raven, it's more often than not going to be bad news, basically.
It's a good point.
And some of this information we get, they kind of mix it in. Some of the information we're about to give comes from Robb telling Bran these things, and some of it comes from ravens they've received in the past, the recent past, that Bran already knows about.
Yeah.
Just kind of thinking about them while Robb's telling him these things.
So So basically, it's no further news on their uncle Benjen. He's still missing north of the wall.
Yep.
That their mom is in the area with Tyrion. Their dad was injured and Jory was killed. And that Robb has ordered Moat Cailin to be bolstered with more defenses.
Right. Now, Moat Cailin, we had talked about back in Eddard 4. We talked about the strategic importance of Moat Cailin. It sits at the northern part of the neck and defends the north from the rest of the realm. And everyone but Simon believes it to be impassable to a hostile force. Simon has some reservations on that about that idea.
Do I? I don't remember that. I was just thinking. I was thinking about it again, and I was like, "Yeah, they're probably right. That probably is impassable." What did I say?
You've said in the past that a force coming from the south could lay siege on those, could build siege engines and just pound those towers. There's 3 towers that guard the northern part of the neck, and they could just pound those towers with catapults and everything else until...
That's interesting. You know what? I'll give myself some kudos there because I think that's true. I mean, okay, I'll give you this General McKelly. Would you rather lay siege to Moat Cailin or to the
Eyrie?
Gates of the Moon?
Eyrie?
No, I mean the
Bloody Gate.
The Bloody Gate. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah. Well, they both present challenges, but the Bloody Gate is has more substance to it. Moat Cailin is just 3 towers, I think, whereas the Bloody Gate is a big structure, a big gate blocking the road.
And the whole time I'm doing it, I'm sending half my force round in a ship.
Right.
Landing behind them, coming up, flying Stark banners, and then slit all their throats. So, yeah, I think that Moat Cailin is definitely more vulnerable. But hey, I mean, definitely it's the right time to send more troops there and bolster it. No question.
Yeah.
And I think we also talked a little bit about Moat Cailin in one of the Cat chapters because we were talking about her choices, and one of them was to go north. So I think we did talk about it.
Yeah. So if she got to Moat Cailin, she would have been fine. The issue was getting to Moat Cailin.
The one thing I will say in favour of killing ourselves at the Bloody Gate instead of Moat Cailin is that I think Moat Cailin is pretty swampy, so it'd be like those mosquitoes would be getting you the whole time you were laying siege.
Yeah.
That would be really miserable. So
they don't have screened-in porches either.
Exactly.
So Cat's situation with Tyrion gives Bran some confusing feelings because on one hand, as he puts it, he kind of liked the little man. But on the other hand, and I'm going to read the exact quote here, the name Lannister sent cold fingers creeping up his spine. There was something about the Lannisters, something he ought to remember, but when he tried to think what, he felt dizzy and his stomach clenched as hard as a stone. I think I missed a word there. I think it was something about the name Lannister. Anyway, you get the idea.
Yeah.
And to me, that sounded a lot like vertigo. Like if you were somewhere up really high and you were afraid you were going to fall, you might feel dizzy and your stomach might clench as hard as a stone. I
see where you're going there.
Uh-huh.
Bran should pick up on these clues.
Right.
Because the reason you're afraid of the name Lannister, Bran, is because they pushed you out of a window.
Right. Yeah.
But it wasn't Tyrion.
You remember in his dream, he started to think about that whole situation with Jamie pushing him out the window, and the crow said, "No, put that out of your mind. You don't need that right now." So, I guess it's still out
nodding
of his
in
mind.
agreement.
He still hasn't recalled that.
So Theon catches up to them, and Robb transforms back from Robb the older brother confiding in younger brother to Robb the Lord.
Yep. Yeah, he touches the pommel of his sword and says to Bran, "No matter what happens, I will not let this be forgotten." Which I wonder if that was just some bravado for Theon's sake, or he didn't seem like he was about to say that before he saw Theon was approaching.
But he's talking about his father's injury, right? That's what he's referring to.
Yeah, the injustices the North has suffered at the hands of the Lannisters, I believe, is what he's referring to.
Yeah, so Theon, again, coming back to this situation of Robb is forced into making consequential decisions without true authority and not knowing what the people in true authority would have him do, Theon's all for calling the banners and going to war.
Right.
Because it's much easier when you're not actually making the call.
Yeah. Sounds like a little bit of rashness of youth right there. You know what that reminds me of? This is a bit of an obscure reference, but The Office fans might know what I'm talking about. When Dunder Mifflin is in dire financial straits, and Oscar, who's one of the accountants in the Dunder Mifflin Scranton branch, he's going on and on about how easy it is to fix these problems. All you have to do is this and this and this. And so Michael takes him to all the big bosses, and he's like, okay, I've got the solution. This guy's got all the answers. And Oscar's like,
I think that's actually a very good analogy. I think those two situations are entirely analogous. I think if Theon said, okay, if Robb said, okay, then you're the new Lord of Winterfell, have at it, Theon would be like, well, now.
Did I literally say that to call the banners? But so then Bran asks, well, what does Maester Luwin think? And Theon's response is that Luwin is as timid as an old woman. And Bran reminds Robb that both of his parents took Luwin's counsel, and Robb says, I do. I listen to everyone. And I was thinking, oh boy, is the 8-year-old the most level-headed one we got in this conversation here?
Well, I mean, an 8-year-old versus two 14-year-olds. I mean, 8-year-olds think with their brain, you know.
Good point.
14-year-olds, not so much.
Not so much, no. No, I really think, actually, Robb is he's been pretty level-headed for a kid being stuck in this position. But I do worry that Theon, who is the same age and clearly has some rashness about him, is also giving him counsel on how we don't need the North being run by a pair of teenagers, you know.
Yes, I would trust Robb to run the North if Mr. Luwin was his chief counselor. Right. I would not trust Robb to run the North if Theon Greyjoy was his chief counselor.
Right.
It's not a good situation.
No. So Bran points out the fact that only a lord can call the banners, and then Theon, in all his wisdom, says, if your father dies, Robb is the lord. And, you know, Bran kind of freaks out and he shouts, he's not going to die. And Robb has to calm him down. And I was like, come on, Theon. The kid's 8. You can't say something like that in front of an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
But then Robb calms him down and he says, kind of telling Bran that everything is going to be okay. He says, Father told me to be strong for you and there's someone else. I swear it was you and Hodor,
Mr. Luwin, the wolves. Oh, there are 3 wolves. That must mean something.
3 wolves? He says for you and Rickon, but as soon as he said for you and Rickon, that's what popped into my head. Who?
I like it. So Bran, a little bit upset now, wants to go home. Robb says he wants to find the wolves first, which... as you made the point, the wolves seem pretty independent and able to look after themselves. Yeah, they are dire wolves.
Right. That comes up a couple times in this chapter. I put it in Penetry because I was just like, that seems unnecessary. Yeah. But anyway.
I was in a work conference the other day on a conference call, and I was talking to a lady that we work with, and something happened with her video, and then she was replaced by a huge white dog on the couch where she'd been sitting, and it honestly goodness looked like she'd been eaten. I was like, "Are you there?" And
should I call
then
the police?
She wrote back, "Yeah, I'm here." I'm like, "Okay, but what awfully big hands you have." Did a whole Red Riding Hood.
Yes,
I was very pleased with myself. So Bran recalls Jory taking Robb and Bran and Jon fishing. Bran caught nothing, but Jon, being Jon, gave him his fish.
Yep, good old Jon.
So now he's kind of getting more and more upset. You know, he's never going to see Jory again because Jory was killed. And now will he ever see Jon again?
Yeah, and you remember back in the the last Bran chapter, when they were kind of laying together at the end of the chapter, Robb said, when Mother gets home, you and I will ride up to the wall and we'll surprise Jon. And can you imagine the look on his face when he sees you a horse? He must have just forgotten that plan, I guess.
Yeah, but hearing everything he's hearing, he's got to be thinking the time when we're all back together again is receding, not approaching. You know,
and this actually made me think of something, because he asks Robb this. Bran asks Robb this question, and Robb's response is, "Well, we saw Uncle Benjen when the king rode north, way back in the beginning of the book," and that made me think: is that that can't be the only time Benjen's been around, because he just seemed too, the kids seemed too familiar with him. And so I went back and read the John, I think it was John 1 chapter, and John is sitting there, and the line is, he hears a familiar voice behind him, and it's Uncle Benjen. So clearly he must come down, whenever he needs a change of pace from whatever they eat up at the wall. Turnips.
You see, I think it's forgotten that King Robert Baratheon, first of his name, did enact some very progressive labour laws, which meant that even the Night's Watch got 3 weeks paid vacation a year. Benjen comes down all the time. All right, so the party splits up again because Robb and Bran ride off into the Wolfswood looking for the wolves.
Yeah, and Theon falls back. He and the guards are kind of laughing and joking, and then next thing you know, they're out of earshot of Robb and Bran, and the boys hear the wolves howl, and Robb decides to go find them solo, which seems to be a bit of a Stark trait, to just leave kids by themselves.
But how could Bran say, "Hey, wait, don't leave me alone"? Because what about Rickon?
Right.
Rickon could cope with this.
I'm guessing Rickon's with the wolves right now.
Yeah. Don't be such a wuss. Rickon lives out here in the Wolfswood. So Bran's all alone. He hears Lee's rustle. He thinks it must be the rest of the party joining him, but it's a ragged group of people. 4 men, 2 women. They immediately spot his rich clothing.
Yeah, and then he says to them, they said, "You lost, little lordling, you lost in the woods, my little lord," or something like that. And he says, "No, my brother just rode off, and my guard will be here soon." And I was like, "Oh, that's a dead giveaway that you are a wealthy young man."
Yeah. But if you say it like this, "My guard will be here soon," that's the way to do it.
Right. Did you hear what I said? My guards!
Oh, my wolf!
So the kind of the voice of the group says, "What are they guarding? That fancy silver pin you got there?" And Bran notices that not only are they wearing filthy clothing, but 2 of them are wearing filthy clothing that were once black, and realizes that they're deserters from the Night's Watch. And that made me wonder, Garrett must have been wearing his black cloak and stuff as well. And I thought, couldn't they find some change of clothes somewhere along the way so that they're not so obvious to spot? It would be like step 1, get out of the garb that only members of the Night's Watch wear.
Interesting thought. If you could just flounce through Winterfell in a big scarlet boa. Yeah. I'm fine. He looks a bit ragged for that scarlet boa, don't worry.
I just thought, man, it seems like they all forget the most important thing is, don't look like a brother of the Night's Watch when you're deserting the Night's Watch.
I think the problem is that everything they wear is black, though. So, the thing is, they'd have to find something, and there's, nothing between Winterfell and the wall, There's no one to steal clothes from,
Maybe make a pair of trousers out of something.
You know what? If I lived in Molestown, which is the town just south of the wall...
Yes!
That is a business right there.
Right. Find a need, fill a need.
Get your fancy brown clothes right here. Thinking of deserting? Stop it! Stop at McKelly & Simon's tailor shop first. And we could do a sideline selling them out to the Starks. As well.
Like those kick me signs that people wear? That people put on other people's backs? We could put one on the back of the cloak that said, Deserter of the Night's Watch.
And we sell their black stuff back to the Night's Watch as well. This idea is money.
So little overhead. Anyway.
We'd have to live in Molestown.
Yeah, that's the downside.
So yeah, we remember back to chapter 1 where Ned Stark told Bran that there's no one more dangerous than a deserter because they know their life is forfeit already.
Yep. So
they're not going to flinch from any crime. So Bran is rightly afraid.
Yes. Kind of the leader of this group is named Stiv. And Stiv wants Bran to get...
With a name like Spiv, you're not long for this world.
He wants Bran off the horse. And Bran says, literally, I cannot do that. And then he says, what are you, some sort of cripple or something? Because Asha realizes he's all strapped to the horse and stuff. And he says, I am Brandon Stark of Winterfell. And that's when Asha, who we discover is one of the 2 women in the group, says, hey, let's take him and go sell him to Mance Raider. Mance Raider would pay a fortune to have a relative of Benjen Stark. And Stiv is like, do you want to go back there? Or do you think the White Walkers would care that you've got a hostage?
Yeah. It's a relevant point, that, because, I mean, I think wildlings come across the wall occasionally to raid south of the wall, but
yes, they do.
That they're doing it, this is an interesting one, because they're not, I know I just used that word, but they're not just here to get some food and some money and some hostages or whatever and go back north of the wall. They're here escaping north of the wall. They're afraid of what's north of the wall.
So either they're running from the White Walkers, and Asha thinks this is worth turning around, undoing everything we've did, getting back around the wall to get Bran to Mance Raider for whatever big reward we're going to get, or she's not really thought it through, I guess.
Yeah, or maybe they're just like a marriage of convenience, this group. Yeah. Maybe they didn't really have a plan. They were just heading south together and they fell in with one another.
Right.
I can't imagine the deserters of the Night's Watch wanting to go north of the wall. For example, they could have just gone north of the wall.
That's a
just
good point.
Shimmy on down.
So just a reminder, Mance Raider, he is also known as the King Beyond the Wall. And back in the 2nd chapter, it was Cat 1. Ned told Cat that it must be the wildlings causing so many desertions and deaths in the Night's Watch, and that he might need to call the banners and go deal with Mance Raider once and for all. But this seems to be a mashup of deserters and wildlings. So
yeah, I think it's becoming clear to you and me that the frequency of desertion from the Night's Watch is more to do with the impending threat from up there.
Right.
Those who've become aware of it are getting out of there.
Yeah, it definitely feels like these guys, this group, aside from maybe Asha, they are fearing the White Walkers and have fled the north.
Yeah. So when Stiv slashes the straps that hold Bran in place, he cuts Bran's leg, but Bran doesn't feel it. Just watches the blood bubble out of his leg. So
yeah,
that's not nice.
And then a voice from somewhere else says, "Put down your steel, and I promise you a quick, painless death," which he tried to say with as much conviction as he could, but unfortunately, being a mid-teen boy, his voice cracked in the process, which probably was from fear, but also could have been because he's a mid-teenage boy.
I promise you a quick and painless death.
I thought, man, that's not the greatest sales pitch right there. You know, maybe put down the steel and I'll give you 10 gold dragons. But instead he went with the quick, painless death.
This yeah, that will come up actually in the comparison with the TV show because TV Robb makes a different offer.
Okay, well, can't say that's not a terrible idea. Because,
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
Quick and painless. Kill me now.
So wait, let me get this straight. There's 6 of us, one of you, and you're offering me a quick and painless death versus a death in a fight. Well, I think I'll fight.
And that's basically what Asha says. She says she seems to be the only one trying to avoid a fight. She says to Robb, "Get off your horse, give us the venison," because Robb has come back from finding the wolves and he's got a deer or an elk or something, but some type of animal draped across his horse.
So, just imagery alert. So, am I getting this straight that a pair of dire wolves took down a noble stag, sigil of House Baratheon?
That's right. I hadn't picked up on that. So she says, get off your horse, give us the deer. We'll thank you kindly, and we'll go on our way.
I'm trying to imagine them making a fast getaway with a deer over their shoulders. Like, they go about 50 yards and then make a campfire.
But then Robb whistles, and things get evened up a little more in a hurry.
The cavalry.
That's right. Out from the underbrush emerge Summer and Greywind. And in this moment, I was really hoping that Rickon would ride out on Shaggy. But no, they didn't.
Shaggy rears up onto 2 legs.
I did wonder at this point, though, how come Shaggy is short for Shaggy Dog? That's the name of Rickon's wolf. Shaggy Dog didn't get to come on the big journey. That seems unfair.
Well, who's looking after Rickon?
That's a good point.
That's Shaggy's raison d'etre. So the wildlings attack. Robb kills the first man. Greywind tackles one. Robb and Osha fight.
So I wondered at this point, I'm pretty sure that this is the first fight and kill that Robb has ever had.
Probably, yeah.
He just started wearing live steel just just a few chapters ago, and
and it's not like his dad was making him do the executions or anything like that.
Yeah, so this is the first person he's ever killed, and now he's embroiled in his first battle he's ever been in.
Yeah. But hey, it's handy to have 2 direwolves.
Yes, because Summer takes care of Holly, which is the other female of the group, and then a man try.
Her last name was Tosis. It wasn't really.
No, it actually wasn't. We don't know what her last name was, but it could have been. It should have been. So, and then one man tries to flee, and Greywind tackles him and drags him down, and he dies as well. So now it's just Stiv and Robb and Bran and the wolves.
Yeah. So Robb has Osha in his clutches, but Stiv has Bran in his, right?
Yeah. He kind of ran her over with his horse, and so she kind of was down and out. But now she gets back up when Stiv grabs Bran, pulls him down off the horse, puts a dagger to his throat, and says, get off your horse and put down your sword. And Robb has no choice, so he does. And meanwhile, Asha gets up and gets her spear back, and first Stiv tells Asha, kill the wolves, and she's like, you kill the wolves. I'm not getting anywhere near those monsters. And so
let me hold this spear to the cripple while you kill the wolves.
So then Stiv changes tactics and orders Robb to kill the wolves, or else he'll kill Bran. But we never get that far.
Yeah, because something kills Stiv from behind.
Yes.
An arrow fired by Theon.
Yes. As he put...
Which is good.
Yeah.
Good and bad.
Yeah.
Slightly risky.
Yeah. I clearly... Yeah. He doesn't necessarily think things through all the way, it's clear. And he's 14, 15, mid-teen age. They're known for not necessarily thinking things all the way through, so it doesn't necessarily surprise me that he didn't think through the repercussions of firing an arrow within inches of Bran's head. But then Bran says the guards all arrive on scene, and he said the guards are all pale and sick, looking at taking in the scene that's happening, and Jothus is in the bushes puking. And even Maester Lewin is momentarily stunned when he comes upon the scene. So must have been a pretty grisly scene.
Well, believe me, I know. I went outside and saw my dog did.
That's right.
Easily as bad.
So yeah, it was Theon's arrow that killed Stiv. Came bursting through his chest, so he hit him. He fired at his back, and Theon is standing there looking proud and cocky and smiling. And that's something that Bran mentions a few times in this chapter, is that Theon is always smiling, and Theon says, "A dead enemy is a thing of beauty." And I'm guessing it's also his first kill.
Presumably. Yep.
I mean, he is a Greyjoy, so it's possible he was killing and reaving by the time he was old enough to walk, but it's likely his first kill.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Robb's angry at Theon for shooting at Bran, essentially.
Yeah.
But also relieved to
Yeah.
have Bran back safely.
Right, I'm sure he's got mixed feelings. He says to Theon, "Jon always said you were an ass." And he, Theon's like, "I just saved your brother's life." And Robb starts ticking off all the things that could have gone wrong. You could have missed. You could have just wounded him. His hand could have slipped and cut Bran's throat. You could have hit Bran. What if he was wearing a breastplate? All you saw was his black cloak. And Theon's like, yeah, well, haven't thought that all the way through. And Robb's right.
Yeah, Robb is right, no doubt. But Theon's right too. A good shot there saved the day.
You know, you have in here, is Robb right to be angry at Theon? And so I'd been thinking about that since I read it a few days ago in our notes here. And, gosh, I guess it's one of those things, like, yeah, it worked out great, so, you know, cheers all around. It's like when a football team goes for it on 4th and inches, if they get it, you're like, yes, that was a great decision. If they don't get it, they're like, why would you do that? You should have punted. So...
You're missing sports, aren't you?
I am missing sports, yes. Luckily, I get to throw in analogies, sports analogies, in every episode these days.
This is our outlet for everything.
Right.
So Robb decides that the heads of the Black Brothers will be returned to the Night's Watch, presumably as a reminder to those of the Night's Watch who've been measured for outfits at the McKelly and Simon Taylors in Molestown, that they should stay and fulfill their vows. But he's curious as to why the wildlings have come so far south. And as a result, he decides to take Usha prisoner rather than dispatching her, which Theon's perfectly happy to do there and then. Yeah. He isn't sure what to do, but Lewin suggests that questioning her would be the right thing, and Robb's pretty relieved. I think presumably he's had enough bloodshed for one day.
And once again, Theon is, impulsively says, "Feed her to the wolves." You could definitely feel Robb the boy dreading having to do some Robb the Lord type stuff, like having her beheaded or whatever.
Yeah. In fact, he's lucky in some ways that a member of the Night's Watch didn't survive the fight, because he doesn't know exactly what to do about the whole father being injured, mother taking Tyrion captive, but he knows exactly what he's supposed to do to a deserter.
Right. I hadn't thought that. I hadn't thought about that. I wonder if you're a deserter, can you take the black? Just come. I take the black.
You wear 2 layers of black.
But this had me wondering, had me kind of conjecturing into the future a little bit, and this might really shake Robb, that this could have turned out absolutely disastrously if Bran had been killed. Imagine the guilt that he would have carried around with him had Bran been killed because he left him alone in the woods.
Yeah, I think the other thing as well, the other eye-opener of it is, as he's sort of like thinking about gathering troops on the southern borders of the north, he can't empty out Winterfell and the northern parts of the north, because there's threats from that direction too.
They don't seem to be coming down in major groups yet, but...
Not yet, but winter is coming.
It is, yes it is. We know that. And we know what's coming with it. We read it in the prologue.
Yes. Yeah, yes. You got some background for us?
Background was a little bit tough this chapter. There wasn't really a whole lot to go on. So I guess I came up with talking a little bit about wildling ratings. So we don't know for sure if they were down here. We know that the Deserters of the Night's Watch were not down here raiding, but the wildlings probably were also fleeing along with them. But it's possible they were just, like Simon said, a band of convenience. But raiding is a common thing that the wildlings do. And so basically raiding is kind of a staple of life for a wildling, or the free folk as they call themselves. And starting as early as 12, wildling raiders either climb the wall or use little boats to cross the Bay of Seals to get around it. And
oh, interesting.
Yeah, climbing the wall is a long and dangerous effort, and as you might imagine, it can take a full day to scale the 700 vertical feet of ice, and often rangers of the Night Watch find broken bodies of fallen raiders at the base of the wall.
A full day to scale it, but only 8 seconds to slide down the other side. Whee!
That's what the Night's Watch don't tell them, is there's actually a slide on the other side. Raiders cross the wall to steal swords and axes and spices and silks and furs and any other valuables they can find. And they're known to take women and carry them off beyond the wall as well. So, wildlings use huge ladders of woven hemp, spiked boots, small stone-headed hammers, and stakes of iron and bone and horn to get themselves up over the wall. And then they hit the slide on the other side. So,
very good, very good. So, comparison with the television show, it was mostly in line. A noteworthy difference is that the book conversation between Robb and Bran is had between Robb and Theon in the show. They are sitting down watching Bran ride, and they're having the discussion about Uncle Benjen, about Mum and Tyrion, about father being injured, about calling the banners. All of that is a discussion between the two adults in the scene.
Okay,
Bran occasionally...
Robb and Theon?
Robb and Theon.
Robb and Theon, okay.
No, Robb and Theon. They're the only three people in the scene. Nobody else is on this trek. It's just the three of them.
Ah, wow. Okay.
And so Bran's only contribution to that conversation is riding through occasionally going, whee! So it's different in terms of how you sort of see Bran.
Yeah, much less
Theon
impactful.
also seems... Yeah. Theon seems a little bit more thoughtful, but again, in that position of much easier for him to make sort of bold statements about what Robb should do.
Right.
Because he's not actually making the call. So we've got different levels of trust in Theon. I mean, obviously, we know that Kat trusted him with her secret that she wouldn't divulge to anyone until she divulged it to everyone. But we didn't see Robb discussing these things with Theon in the book. He was discussing them with Bran.
Right.
Really.
Yeah.
So the reason Bran's on his own in the TV show is just because he's the only one riding. The other two are just sitting there, and he just rides off and then gets isolated with the baddies. There's only 4 baddies because there's no wolves in this scene.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Robb takes care of everyone. And what I was saying before, I sort of gave away the fact that I was getting confused between the TV show and the book. 2 of them are killed. Shiv has Bran at knife point. He has Usher at knife point.
Oh. Yeah. Standoff until Theon breaks that standoff.
Well, actually, it isn't really a standoff because obviously the person who has the upper hand here is the one who's got a loved one. Shiv doesn't care
Right.
whether Usher lives or dies. So.
That's a good point.
So Robb is forced to drop his sword, and it's only after he drops his sword that the arrow arrives and kills Shiv.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Right.
The reason that Robb enters the fray on his own, because remember, there's only 3 of them in this scene now.
Yeah.
And Robb and Theon were together. It's because Robb offends Theon, and Theon stomps off when Robb tells Theon that it's easy for him to make these calls because it's not his house.
Oh, he said this.
Yes, he did. All right, so you had some pedantry, which I kind of spoiled.
No.
I shouldn't have read it before we started.
Oh, I was just wondering. So they get themselves into this situation because Robb insists twice that they go and find the wolves. And that just seems like... It feels like they run off and come back all the time. You know, they're not Penny.
Yeah, I mean,
if it was Penny missing in the woods, I'd have to find her because she couldn't live 5 minutes on her own. These are dire wolves. I think they can handle it, it feels like.
Yeah. I mean, the wolves have been out of sight for like 15 minutes.
Right.
Rickon has been missing in action for a month. Rickon may have been kidnapped already by the wildlings and being held hostage north of the wall. But no, let's go find the wolves. Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think it was slightly artificial way to break up this company.
Yeah, I think so.
So news and notes. So we mentioned Dan and his wife laughing at us. We also had a nice email from Rob in France saying how the podcast is helping him get through his quarantine time. Yeah. So we're glad to be of service.
He specifically mentioned it helps him when he's cutting grass.
Cutting grass. There you go.
Yeah. And we also feel like we're kind of gushing about ourselves here, but we got a nice comment from Randall. And Randall said he's amazed at how much he missed when reading on his own after listening to us. So. Well,
yeah. I mean, I a lot of that, Randall, is just because we keep rereading it. I mean, I'm the same. I obviously we've established I have no recall of this from the first time around, but I too am finding a lot more in it this second read through than I did the first time. So
you're like the perfect co-host for the show, because you kind of want you want someone who knows what they're talking about, but also it really helps having a vehicle to explain things when you have someone who has no idea what's going on.
Exactly. I'm here to ask questions. I'm like, what did I just read, McGilly?
So you are both on one hand someone who knows what's happening, and on the other hand someone who has absolutely no idea what's going on. No, you know.
So is this are we at the halfway point?
Last chapter was the halfway point.
Wow, how about that?
Yeah.
Only of book one, everyone.
Yes.
Save your tears. There's plenty more still to come. So, we'll be old and grey by the time we finish this.
Yeah. So
let's conclude.
Yes, let's do. One thing that struck me about this chapter is that Robb really only seems to be Robb the boy when he's around Bran. Seems like that's the only time he shows any real emotions that he's feeling, lets his guard down, he tears up, he gets sad and scared. And if anyone else is around, he puts on the Robb the Lord exterior.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, that's probably true of most of us, around our families where we let our guards down, Just his only family that he's with now is Bran. Oh, wait. So, maybe before everyone departed, he was like that with all of his family. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that could be.
So Theon, definitely fly by the seat of his pants kind of guy. Definitely likes to have fun. Definitely impetuous.
Yeah. He's known to give Robb some questionable advice, but hopefully Robb is smart enough to put in the time thinking it through that Theon's clearly not doing.
Yeah, and like Bran says, the person to talk to is Maester Luwin. I mean, Maester Luwin is the one who's got all the experience, and he's part of his cabal of maesters.
Right. They're running the realm anyway.
They're running the realm anyway. You might as well do what he says. So more desertions from the Night's Watch, more wildlings south of the wall. Are these numbers set to increase?
Right, yeah.
I would say yes. They've gone from 1 to 6 in just half a book.
Right. They might be at 12 by the end of the first book.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, these Stark parents might never be coming home. That's another thing we could possibly conclude from this.
Well, I mean, hopefully Ned still is. I mean, hopefully Ned, once he recovers from the injury, should be... I mean, that was his plan.
Right.
He was planning to come home.
I wonder if he's still planning on stopping at Dragonstone on his way. And then he'll stop at Dragonstone. Then he'll stop at the Vale to see Cat. Then they'll find a reason to go back to King's Landing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's going to be a while regardless, because neither of them are anywhere near making it back to Winterfell.
Yeah. But Bran can ride. That's nice. That's a nice takeaway from this. Let's not worry about the wildlings attacking Bran. Let's not worry about the direwolves eating the gizzards out of their kills.
Bran can ride.
Bran's riding and he's going, whee!
Alright, I guess we should wrap this up for these poor people.
We should, yeah. Alright, as always, you can reach us at ghost.harrenhall@gmail.com. The other day I was trying to write our Gmail address. I say that every single week. and I couldn't remember what our Gmail address was. I'm like, all I have to do is say the words, as always, you can reach us at, and it would have all flowed. Yeah. But I just trying to think of it on its own. I was like, what the heck is that email address? As always, you can reach us at ghost.harrenhall@gmail.com and follow us on Twitter at @GhostHarrenhall, Facebook, Instagram, and now YouTube.
And please do reach out. We really enjoy interacting with the folks that reach out.
It's the best.
It is.
Every time someone emails us or tweets at us, we get so excited.
We do.
McKelly will interrupt any meeting that I'm having to tell me that such contact has been made.
You think I care that your thing says in a meeting? This is important. Someone has...
We've had an email!
Yeah, and if you wouldn't mind going out and leaving us a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or podchaser.com, it really does go a long way in helping us get the word out. We would really appreciate that.
That's why we've got so many listeners.
That's right.
Thank you. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.